Hi there, my name is Oliver. Tonight I will be reading the last 4 chapters, 13, 14, 15, and 16, of The Star's My Destination, the novel written by Alfred Bester in 1956. In these chapters, we rejoin Foyle after he has finally learned the reason why Vorga passed him by on the Nomad. Now that he knows, and knows who gave the order, what will he do? And how will he deal with Dagenham and Yang Yovel, Gisbella McQueen and Robin Wednesbury, Prestane of Prestane, and his daughter Olivia? Let's find out. Chapter 13. All persons known to be in the employ of Foyle of Ceres or associated with him in any capacity to be held for questioning. Y-Y, Central Intelligence. All employees of this company to maintain strict watch for one Foyle of Ceres, and report at once to local Mr. Prestane. All couriers will abandon present assignments and report for reassignment to Foyle case. Dagenham. A bank holiday will be declared immediately in the name of the war crisis to cut Foyle off from all funds. Y-Y, Central Intelligence. Anyone making inquiries re SS Vorga to be taken to Castle Prestane for examination. Prestane. All ports and fields in inner planets to be alerted for arrival of Foyle. Quarantine and customs to check all landings. Y-Y, Central Intelligence. Old St. Patrick's to be searched and watched. Dagenham. The files of Bonus and Wig to be checked for names of officers and men of Vorga to anticipate, if possible, Foyle's next move. Prestane. War Crimes Commission to make up list of public enemies, giving Foyle number 1 spot. Y-Y, Central Intelligence. Guy. Ocean tides surrounded Mont Saint Michel on Earth. Green tides of grass surrounded Mars Saint Michel. Both were fortresses. Mont Saint Michel had been a fortress of faith before organized religion was abolished. Mars Saint Michel was a fortress of telepathy. Within it lived Mars' sole full telepath, Sigurd Magsman. Now these are the defenses protecting Sigurd Magsman, Foyle chanted, halfway between hysteria and litany. Firstly, the solar system. Secondly, martial law. Thirdly, Dagenham, Prestane, and Co. Fourthly, the fortress itself. Fifthly, the uniformed guards, attendants, servants, and admirers of the bearded sage we all know so well, Sigurd Magsman, selling his awesome powers for awesome prices. Foyle laughed immoderately. But there's a sixthly that I know, Sigurd Magsman's Achilles' heel, for I've paid 1,000,000 credits to Sigurd the Third, or was he fourth? He passed through the outer labyrinth of Mars Saint Michel with his forged credentials, and was tempted to bluff or proceed directly by commando action to an audience with the great man himself. But time was pressing, and his enemies were closing in, and he could not afford to satisfy his curiosity. Instead, he accelerated, blurred, and found a humble cottage set in a walled garden within the Mars Saint Michel home farm. It had drab windows and a thatched roof, and might have been mistaken for a stable. Foyle slipped inside. The cottage was a nursery. 3 pleasant nannies sat motionless in rocking chairs, knitting poised in their frozen hands. The blur that was Foyle came up behind them and quietly stung them with ampules. Then he decelerated. He looked at the ancient child, the wizened, shriveled boy, who was seated on the floor playing with electric trains. "Hello, Sigurd," Foyle said. The child began to cry. "Cry, baby. What are you afraid of? I'm not going to hurt you."
"You're a bad man with a bad face."
"I'm your friend, Sigurd."
"No, you're not. You want me to do bad things."
"I'm your friend. Look, I know all about those big, hairy men who pretend to be you, but I won't tell. Read me and see."
"You're going to hurt him, and you want me to tell him."
"Who?"
"The captain man. The Scott."
The child fumbled with the word, wailing louder.
"Go away. You're bad. Badness in your head and burning men's and—"
"Come here, Sigurd."
"No. Nanny! Nanny!"
"Shut up, you little bastard." Foyle grabbed the 70-year-old child and shook it. "This is going to be a brand new experience for you, Sigurd. The first time you've ever been walloped into anything. Understand?" The ancient child read him and howled. "Shut up. We're going on a trip to the Skoptsi colony. If you behave yourself and do what you're told, I'll bring you back safe and give you a lolly or whatever the hell they bribe you with. If you don't behave, I'll beat the living daylights out of you.
No, you won't. You won't. I'm Sigurd Magsman. I'm Sigurd the telepath. You wouldn't dare.
Sonny, I'm Gully Foyle, solar enemy number 1. I'm just a step away from the finish of a year-long hunt. I'm risking my neck because I need you to settle accounts with a son of a bitch who... Sonny, I'm Gully Foyle. There isn't anything I wouldn't dare. The telepath began broadcasting terror with such an uproar the alarms sounded all over Mars St. Michel. Foyle took a firm grip on the ancient child, accelerated, and carried him out of the fortress. Then he jaunted. Urgent. Sigurd Magsman kidnapped by man tentatively identified as Gulliver Foyle, alias 4 Mile of Ceres, solar enemy number 1. Destination tentatively fixed. Alert Commando Brigade. Inform Central Intelligence. Urgent. The ancient Skoptsi sect of White Russia, believing that sex was the root of all evil, practiced an atrocious self-castration to extirpate the root. The modern Skoptsis, believing that sensation was the root of all evil, practiced an even more barbaric custom. Having entered the Skoptsi colony and paid a fortune for the privilege, the initiates submitted joyously to an operation that severed the sensory nervous system, and lived out their days without sight, sound, speech, smell, taste, or touch. When they first entered the monastery, the initiates were shown elegant ivory cells in which it was intimated they would spend the remainder of their lives in rapt contemplation, lovingly tended. In actuality, the senseless creatures were packed in catacombs where they sat on rough stone slabs and were fed and exercised once a day. For 23 out of 24 hours they sat alone in the dark, untended, unguarded, unloved. The living dead, Foyle muttered. He decelerated, put Sigurd Magsman down, and switched on the retinal light in his eyes, trying to pierce the womb gloom. It was midnight above ground. It was permanent midnight down in the catacombs. Sigurd Magsman was broadcasting terror and anguish with such a telepathic bray that Foyle was forced to shake the child again. "Shut up," he whispered. "You can't wake these dead. Now find me Lindsay Joyce."
They're sick. All sick, like worms in their heads. Worms and sickness and...
Christ, don't I know it. Come on, let's get it over with. There's worse to come. They went down the twisting labyrinth of the catacombs. The stone slabs shelved the walls from floor to ceiling. The Skoptsis, white as slugs, mute as corpses, motionless as Buddhas, filled the caverns with the odor of living death. The telepathic child wept and shrieked. Foyle never relaxed his relentless grip on him, never relaxed the hunt. Johnson, Wright, Keeley, Graff, Nastro, Underwood. God, there's thousands here. Foyle read off the bronze identification plates attached to the slabs. Reach out, Sigurd. Find Lindsay Joyce for me. We can't go over them name by name. Regal, Cone, Brady, Vincent. What in the... Foyle started back. One of the bone-white figures had cuffed his brow. It was swaying and writhing, its face twitching. All the white slugs on their shelves were squirming and writhing. Sigurd Magsman's constant telepathic broadcast of anguish and terror was reaching them and torturing them. "Shut up!" Foyle snapped. "Stop it! Find Lindsay Joyce and we'll get out of here. Reach out and find him."
Down there, Sigurd wept. Straight down there, 7, 8, 9 shelves down. I want to go home. I'm sick.
Foyle went pell-mell down the catacombs with Sigurd, reading off identification plates until at last he came to Lindsay Joyce, Bougainville, Venus. This was his enemy, the instigator of his death and the deaths of the 600 from Callisto. This was the enemy for whom he had planned a vengeance and hunted for months. This was the enemy for whom he had prepared the agony of the port stateroom aboard his yawl. This was Vorga. It was a woman. Foyle was thunderstruck. In these days of the double standard, with woman kept in purdah, there were many reported cases of women masquerading as men to enter the worlds closed to them. But he had never yet heard of a woman in the merchant marine, masquerading her way to top officer rank. "This?" he exclaimed furiously. "This is Lindsay Joyce? Lindsay Joyce off the Vorga? Ask her."
"I don't know what Vorga is."
"Ask her."
"But I don't. She gave orders."
"Captain?"
"I don't like what's inside her. It's all sick and dark. It hurts. I want to go home."
"Ask her. Was she the captain of the Vorga?
Yes. Please, please, please don't make me go inside her anymore. It's twisty and hurts. I don't like her.
Tell her I'm the man she wouldn't pick up on September 16th, 2436. Tell her it's taken a long time, but I've finally come to settle the account. Tell her I'm going to pay her back.
I don't understand. Don't understand.
Tell her I'm going to kill her, slow and hard. Tell her I've got a stateroom aboard my yawl, fitted up just like my locker aboard Nomad where I rotted for 6 months, where she ordered Vorga to leave me to die. Tell her she's going to rot and die just like me. Tell her! Foyle shook the wizened child furiously. Make her feel it. Don't let her get away by turning Skoptzy. Tell her I kill her filthy. Read me and tell her.
She didn't give that order.
What?
I can't understand her.
She didn't give the order to scuttle me?
I'm afraid to go in.
Go in, you little son of a bitch, or I'll take you apart. What does she mean? The child wailed. The woman writhed. Foyle fumed. Go in, go in! Get it out of her! Jesus Christ, why does the only telepath on Mars have to be a child? Sigurd, listen to me. Ask her, did she give the order to scuttle the refs?
No, no!
No, she didn't, or no, you won't.
She didn't.
Did she give the order to pass Nomad by?
She's twisty and sicky. Oh, please, Nanny! I want to go home. Want to go.
Did she give the order to pass Nomad by?
No.
She didn't.
No, take me home.
Ask her who did.
I want my Nanny.
Ask her who could give her an order. She was captain aboard her own ship. Who could command her? Ask her!
I want my Nanny.
Ask her!
No, no, no. I'm afraid. She's sick. She's dark and black. She's bad. I don't understand her. I want my Nanny. I want to go home.
The child was shrieking and shaking. Foyle was shouting. The echoes thundered. As Foyle reached for the child in a rage, his eyes were blinded by brilliant light. The entire catacomb was illuminated by the burning man. Foyle's image stood before him, face hideous, clothes on fire, the blazing eyes fixed on the convulsing Skoptzy that had been Lindsay Joyce. The burning man opened his tiger mouth. A grating sound emerged. It was like flaming laughter. She hurts, he said. Who are you? The burning man winced. Too bright, he said. Less light. Foyle took a step forward. The burning man clapped hands over his ears in agony. Too loud, he cried. Don't move so loud. Are you my guardian angel? You're blinding me. Shh. Suddenly he laughed again. Listen to her. She's screaming, begging. She doesn't want to die. Doesn't want to be hurt. Listen to her. Foyle trembled. She's telling us who gave the order. Can't you hear? Listen with your eyes. The burning man pointed a taloned finger at the writhing Skoptzy. She says Olivia. What? She says Olivia. Olivia Prestane. Olivia Prestane. Olivia Prestane. The burning man vanished. The catacombs were dark again. Colored lights and cacophonies whirled around Foyle. He gasped and staggered. Blue Jaunt, he muttered. Olivia, no, not, never. Olivia, He felt a hand reach for his. Jizz, he croaked. He became aware that Sigurd Magsman was holding onto his hand and weeping. He picked the boy up.
I hurt,
Sigurd whimpered. I hurt too, son.
Want to go home.
I'll take you home. Still holding the boy in his arms, he blundered through the catacombs. The living dead, he mumbled, and then, I've joined them. He found the stone steps that led up from the depths to the monastery cloister above ground. He trudged up the steps, tasting death and desolation. There was bright light above him. and for a moment he imagined that dawn had come already. Then he realized that the cloister was brilliantly lit with artificial light. There was the tramp of shod feet, and the low growl of commands. Halfway up the steps, Foyle stopped and mustered himself. "Sigurd," he whispered. "Who's above us? Find out."
"Soldiers," the child answered.
"Soldiers? What soldiers?"
"Commando soldiers."
Sigurd's crumpled face brightened.
"They come for me, to take me home to Nanny. Here I am! Here I am!"
The telepathic clamor brought a shout from overhead. Foyle accelerated and blurred up the rest of the steps to the cloister. It was a square of Romanesque arches surrounding a green lawn. In the center of the lawn was a giant cedar of Lebanon. The flagged walks swarmed with commando search parties, and Foyle came face to face with his match. For, an instant after they saw his blur whip up from the catacombs, they accelerated too, and all were on even terms. But Foyle had the boy. Shooting was impossible. Cradling Sigurd in his arms, he wove through the cloister like a broken field runner, hurtling towards a goal. No one dared block him, for at +5 acceleration a head-on collision between two bodies would be instantly fatal to both. Objectively, this breakneck skirmish looked like a 5-second zigzag of lightning. Foyle broke out of the cloister, went through the main hall of the monastery, passed through the labyrinth, and reached the public jaunt stage outside the main gate. There he stopped, decelerated, and jaunted to the monastery airfield, half a mile distant. The field, too, was ablaze with lights and swarming with commandos. Every anti-grav pit was occupied by a brigade ship. His own yawl was under guard. A fifth of a second after Foyle arrived at the field, the pursuers from the monastery jaunted in. He looked around desperately. He was surrounded by half a regiment of commandos, all under acceleration, all geared for lethal action, all his equal or better. The odds were impossible. And then the outer satellites altered the odds. Exactly 1 week after the saturation raid on Terra, they struck at Mars. Again the missiles came down on the midnight to dawn quadrant. Again the heavens twinkled with interceptions and detonations, and the horizon exploded with great puffs of light while the ground shook. But this time there was a ghastly variation, for a brilliant nova burst overhead, flooding the night side of the planet with garish light. A swarm of fission heads had struck Mars' tiny satellite, Phobos, instantly vaporizing it into a sunlet. The recognition lag of the commandos to this appalling attack gave Foyle his opportunity. He accelerated again and burst through them to his yawl. He stopped before the main hatch and saw the stunned guard party hesitate between a continuance of the old action and a response to the new. Foyle hurled Sigurd Magsman up into the air, like an ancient Scotsman tossing the caber. As the guard party rushed to catch the boy, Foyle dove through them into his yawl, slammed the hatch, and dogged it. Still under acceleration, never pausing to see if anyone was inside the yawl, he shot forward to the controls, tripped the release lever, and as the yawl started to float up the anti-grav beam, threw on full 10G propulsion. He was not strapped into the pilot chair. The effect of the 10G drive on his accelerated and unprotected body was monstrous. A creeping force took hold of him and spilled him out of the chair. He inched back toward the rear wall of the control chamber like a sleepwalker. The wall appeared, to his accelerated senses, to approach him. He thrust out both arms, palms flat against the wall to brace himself. The sluggish power thrusting him back split his arms apart and forced him against the wall, gently at first, then harder and harder, until face, jaw, chest, and body were crushed against the metal. The mounting pressure became agonizing. He tried to trip the switchboard in his mouth with his tongue, but the propulsion crushing him against the wall made it impossible for him to move his distorted mouth. A burst of explosions, so far down the sound spectrum that they sounded like sodden rock slides, told him that the commando brigade was bombarding him with shots from below. As the yawl tore up into the blue-black of outer space, he began to scream in a bat screech before he mercifully lost consciousness. Chapter 14. Foyle awoke in darkness. He was decelerated, but the exhaustion of his body told him he had been under acceleration while he had been unconscious. Either his power pack had run out, or... He inched a hand to the small of his back. The pack was gone. It had been removed. He explored with trembling fingers. He was in a bed. He listened to the murmur of ventilators and air conditioners, and the click and buzz of servo mechanisms. He was aboard a ship. He was strapped to the bed. The ship was in freefall. Foyle unfastened himself, pressed his elbows against the mattress, and floated up. He drifted through the darkness, searching for a light switch or a call button. His hands brushed against a water carafe with raised letters on the glass. He read them with his fingertips. S, S, he felt. V, O, R, G, A. Vorga. He cried out. The door of the stateroom opened. A figure drifted through the door, silhouetted against the light of a luxurious private lounge behind it.
"This time we picked you up,"
a voice said. "Olivia?"
"Yes."
"Then it's true."
"Yes, Scully."
Foyle began to cry.
"You're still weak,"
Olivia Prestane said gently.
"Come and lie down."
She urged him into the lounge and strapped him into a chaise longue. It was still warm from her body.
"You've been like this for 6 days. We never thought you'd live. Everything was drained out of you before the surgeon found that battery on your back."
"Where is it?" he croaked.
"You can have it whenever you want it. Don't fret, my dear."
He looked at her for a long moment, his snow maiden, his beloved ice princess. The white satin skin, the blind coral eyes and exquisite coral mouth. She touched his moist eyelids with a scented handkerchief. "I love you," he said.
"Shh. I know, Gully."
"You've known all about me. For how long?"
"I knew Gully Foyle, the spaceman off the Nomad, was my enemy from the beginning. I never knew you were 4 Mile until we met. Ah, if only I'd known before, how much would have been saved."
"You knew, and you've been laughing at me."
"No."
"Standing by and shaking with laughter."
"Standing by and loving you. No, don't interrupt. I'm trying to be rational, and it's not easy."
A flush cascaded across the marble face.
"I'm not playing with you now. I betrayed you to my father. I did. Self-defense, I thought. Now that I've met him at last, I can see he's too dangerous. An hour later, I knew it was a mistake, because I realized I was in love with you. I'm paying for it now. You need never have known."
"You expect me to believe that?"
"Then why am I here?" She trembled slightly. "Why did I follow you? That bombing was ghastly. You'd have been dead in another minute when we picked you up. Your yawl was a wreck."
"Where are we now?"
"What difference does it make?"
"I'm stalling for time."
"Time for what?"
"Not for time. I'm stalling for courage."
"We're orbiting Earth."
"How did you follow me?"
"I knew you'd be after Lindsay Joyce. I took over one of my father's ships. It happened to be Vorga again."
"Does he know?"
"He never knows. I live my own private life."
He could not take his eyes off her, and yet it hurt him to look at her. He was yearning and hating, yearning for the reality to be undone, hating the truth for what it was. He discovered that he was stroking her handkerchief with tremulous fingers. "I love you, Olivia."
"I love you, Gully, my enemy."
"For God's sake!" he burst out. "Why did you do it? You were aboard Vorga running the ref racket. You gave the order to scuttle him. You gave the order to pass me by. Why? Why?"
"What?" she lashed back. "Are you demanding apologies?"
"I'm demanding an explanation."
"You'll get none from me."
"Blood and money, your father said. He was right. Oh, bitch, bitch, bitch."
"Blood and money, yes, and unashamed."
"I'm drowning, Olivia. Throw me a lifeline."
"Then drown. Nobody ever saved me." No, this is wrong, all wrong. Wait, my dear, wait."
She composed herself and began speaking very tenderly.
"I could lie, Gully dear, and make you believe it. But I'm going to be honest. There's a simple explanation. I live my own private life. We all do. You do.
What's yours?
No different from yours, from the rest of the world. I cheat, I lie, I destroy. Like all of us. I'm criminal. Like all of us."
"Why? For money? You don't need money."
"No."
"For control? Power?"
"Not for power."
"Then why?" She took a deep breath, as though this truth was the first truth and was crucifying her. For hatred. To pay you back, all of you.
For what?
For being blind, she said in a smoldering voice. For being cheated. For being helpless. They should have killed me when I was born. Do you know what it's like to be blind? To receive life second-hand? To be dependent, begging, crippled? Bring them down to your level, I told my secret life. If you're blind, make them blinder. If you're helpless, cripple them. Pay them back. All of them.
Olivia, you're insane.
And you?
I'm in love with a monster.
We're a pair of monsters.
No!
No? Not you? She flared. What have you been doing but paying the world back, like me? What's your revenge but settling your own private account with bad luck? Who wouldn't call you a crazy monster? I tell you, we're a pair, Gully. We couldn't help falling in love. He was stunned by the truth of what she said. He tried on the shroud of her revelation, and it fit, clung tighter than the tiger mask tattooed on his face.
It's true, he said slowly. I'm no better than you. Worse. But before God, I never murdered 600.
You're murdering 6 million.
What?
Perhaps more. You've got something they need to end the war, and you're holding out.
You mean Pyre?
Yes.
What is it, this bringer of peace, this 20 pounds of miracle that they're fighting for?
I don't know. But I know they need it, and I don't care. Yes, I'm being honest now. I don't care. Let millions be murdered. It makes no difference to us. Not to us, Gully, because we stand apart. We stand apart and shape our own world. We're the strong.
We're the damned.
We're the blessed. We've found each other. Suddenly she laughed and held out her arms. I'm arguing when there's no need for words. Come to me, my love. Wherever you are, come to me. He touched her and then put his arms around her. He found her mouth and devoured her, but he was forced to release her. What is it, Gully, darling?
I'm not a child anymore, he said wearily. I've learned to understand that nothing is simple. There's never a simple answer. You can love someone and loathe them.
Can you, Gully?
And you're making me loathe myself.
No, my dear.
I've been a tiger all my life. I trained myself, educated myself, pulled myself up by my stripes to make me a stronger tiger with a longer claw and a sharper tooth, quick and deadly.
And you are the deadliest.
No, I'm not. I went too far. I went beyond simplicity. I turned myself into a thinking creature. I look through your blind eyes, my love whom I loathe, and I see myself. The tiger's gone.
There's no place for the tiger to go. You're trapped, Gully, by Dagenham, intelligence, my father, the world.
I know.
But you're safe with me. We're safe together, the pair of us. They'll never dream of looking for you near me. We can plan together, fight together, destroy them together.
No, not together.
What is it? She flared again. Are you still hunting me? Is that what's wrong? Do you still want revenge? Then take it. Here I am. Go ahead, destroy me.
No. Destruction's finished for me.
Ah, I know what it is. She became tender again in an instant. It's your face, poor darling. You're ashamed of your tiger face. But I love it. You burn so brightly for me. You burn through the blindness. Believe me.
My God, what a pair of loathsome freaks we are.
What's happened to you? She demanded. She broke away from him, her coral eyes glittering. Where's the man who watched the raid with me? Where's the unashamed savage who...
Gone, Olivia. You've lost him. We both have.
Golly.
He's lost.
But why? What have I done?
You don't understand, Olivia.
Where are you? She reached out, touched him, and then clung to him.
Listen to me, darling. You're tired. You're exhausted, that's all. Nothing is lost.
The words tumbled out of her.
You're right. Of course you're right. We've been bad, both of us. Loathsome. But all that's gone now. Nothing is lost. We were wicked because we were alone and unhappy. But we've found each other. We can save each other. Be my love, darling. Always. Forever. I've looked for you for so long. Waited and hoped and prayed.
No, you're lying, Olivia. And you know it.
For God's sake, Gully.
Put Vorga down, Olivia.
Land?
Yes.
On Terra?
Yes.
What are you going to do? You're insane. They're hunting you. Waiting for you. Watching. What are you going to do?
Do you think this is easy for me? He said. I'm doing what I have to do. I'm still driven. No man ever escapes from that. But there's a different compulsion in the saddle. And the spurs hurt, damn it. They hurt like hell. He stifled his anger and controlled himself. He took her hands and kissed her palms. It's all finished, Olivia, he said gently. But I love you. Always. Forever.
I'll sum it up, Dagenham rapped. We were bombed the night we found Foyle. We lost him on the moon and found him a week later on Mars. We were bombed again. We lost him again. He's been lost for a week. Another bombing's due. Which one of the inner planets? Venus? The moon? Terra again? Who knows? But we all know this. One more raid without retaliation, and we're lost.
He glanced around the table. Against the ivory and gold background of the star chamber of Castle Prestane, his face, all three faces, looked strained. Yang Yovel slitted his eyes in a frown. Prestane compressed his thin lips.
And we know this, too, Dagenham continued. We can't retaliate without Pyre, and we can't locate the Pyre without Foyle.
My instructions were, Prestane interposed, that Pyre was not to be mentioned in public.
In the first place, this is not public, Dagenham snapped. It's a private information pool. In the second place, we've gone beyond property rights. We're discussing survival. And we've all got equal rights in that. Yes, Jiz?
Jizbella McQueen had jaunted into the star chamber, looking intent and furious.
Still no sign of Foyle. Old St. Pat's still being watched? Yes. Commando brigades report in from Mars yet? No.
That's my business, and most secret, Yang Yovel objected mildly.
You've got as few secrets from me as I have from you, Dagenham grinned mirthlessly. See if you can beat Central Intelligence back here with that report, Jiz. Go.
She disappeared. About property rights, Yang Yovel murmured. May I suggest to Prestane that Central Intelligence will guarantee full payment to him for his right, title, and interest in Pyre.
Don't coddle him, Yovel.
This conference is being recorded, Prestane said coldly. The captain's offer is now on file. He turned his basilisk face to Dagenham. You are in my employ, Mr. Dagenham. Please control your references to myself.
And to your property? Dagenham inquired with a deadly smile. You and your damned property. All of you and all your damned property have put us in this hole. The system's on the edge of total annihilation for the sake of your property. I'm not exaggerating. It will be a shooting war to end all wars if we can't stop it.
We can always surrender,
Prestane answered.
No, Yang Yovel said. That's already been discussed and discarded at HQ. We know the post-victory plans of the outer satellites. They involve total exploitation of the inner planets. We're to be gutted and worked until nothing's left. Surrender would be as disastrous as defeat.
But not for Prestane, Dagenham added.
Shall we say, present company excluded? Yang Yovel replied gracefully.
All right, Prestane. Dagenham swiveled in his chair. Give.
I beg your pardon, sir?
Let's hear all about Pyre. I've got an idea how we can bring Foyle out into the open and locate the stuff, but I've got to know all about it first. Make your contribution.
No,
Prestane answered. No what?
I have decided to withdraw from this information pool. I will reveal nothing about Pyre.
For God's sake, Prestane, are you insane? What's got into you? Are you fighting Regis Sheffield's Liberal Party again?
It's quite simple, Dagenham, Yang Yovel interposed. My information about the surrender-defeat situation has shown Prestaine a way to better his position. No doubt he intends negotiating a sale to the enemy in return for property advantages.
Can nothing move you? Dagenham asked Prestaine scornfully. Can nothing touch you? Are you all property and nothing else? Go away, Jiz. The whole thing's fallen apart. Jizbella had jaunted into the Star Chamber again. Commando Brigades reported, she said. We know what happened to Foyle. What? Prestaine's got him. What? Both Dagenham and Yang Yovel started to their feet. He left Mars in a private yawl, was shot up, and was observed being picked up by the Prestaine SS Vorga. Damn you, Prestaine, Dagenham snapped. So that's why you've been...
Wait, Yang Yovel commanded. It's news to him too, Dagenham. Look at him.
Prestaine's handsome face had gone the color of ashes. He tried to rise, and fell stiffly in his chair.
Olivia, he whispered. With him. That scum.
Prestaine?
My daughter, gentlemen, has for some time been engaged in certain activities. The family vice, blood, and I have managed to close my eyes to it. Had almost convinced myself that I was mistaken. But Foyle, dirt, filth, he must be destroyed!
Prestaine's voice soared alarmingly. His head twisted back like a hanged man's, and his body began to shudder. What in the...
Epilepsy, Yang Yovel said.
He pulled Prestaine out of the chair onto the floor.
A spoon, Miss McQueen, quick.
He levered Prestaine's teeth open and placed a spoon between them to protect the tongue. As suddenly as it had begun, the seizure was over. The shuddering stopped. Prestaine opened his eyes.
Petit mal, Yang Yovel murmured, withdrawing the spoon. But he'll be dazed for a while.
Suddenly Prestaine began speaking in a low monotone. Pyre is a pyrophoric ally. A pyrophore is a metal which emits sparks when scraped or struck. Pyre emits energy, which is why E, the energy symbol, was added to the prefix pyre. Pyre is a solid solution of transplutonian isotopes, releasing thermonuclear energy on the order of stellar phoenix action. Its discoverer was of the opinion that he had produced the equivalent of the primordial protomatter which exploded into the universe. "My God!" Jizbella exclaimed. Dagenham silenced her with a gesture and bent over Prestaine. "How is it brought to critical mass, Prestaine? How is the energy released?" "As the original energy was generated in the beginning of time," Prestaine droned, "through will and idea." "I'm convinced he's a stellar Christian," Dagenham muttered to Yang Yovel. He raised his voice. "Will you explain, Prestaine?" "Through will and idea," Prestaine repeated. "Pyre can only be exploded by psychokinesis. Its energy can only be released by thought. It must be willed to explode, and the thought directed at it. That is the only way." "There's no key? No formula?" "No. Only will and idea are necessary." The glazed eyes closed. "God in heaven!" Dagenham mopped his brow. "Will this give the outer satellites pause, Yovel?"
"It'll give us all pause."
"It's the road to hell," Jizbella said. "Then let's find it and get off the road. Here's my idea, Yovel. Foyle was tinkering with that hell brew in his lab in Old St. Pat's, trying to analyze it." "I told you that in strict confidence," Jizbella said furiously. "I'm sorry, dear. We're past honor and the decencies. Now look, Yovel. There must be some fragments of the stuff lying about, as dust, in solution, in precipitates. We've got to detonate those fragments and blow the hell out of Foyle's circus."
"Why?"
"To bring him running. He must have the bulk of the pyre hidden there somewhere. He'll come to salvage it."
"What if it blows up too?"
"It can't. Not inside an inert lead isotope safe."
"Maybe it's not all inside."
"Jiz says it is. At least so Foyle reported." "Leave me out of this," Jizbella said. "Anyway, we'll have to gamble."
"Gamble?" Yang Yovel exclaimed. "On a Phoenix action? You'll gamble the solar system into a brand new nova."
"What else can we do? Pick any other road, and it's the road to destruction too. Have we got any choice?" "We can wait," Jizbella said. For what? For Foyle to blow us up himself with his tinkering?
We can warn him.
We don't know where he is.
We can find him.
How soon? Won't that be a gamble, too? And what about that stuff lying around waiting for someone to think it into energy? Suppose a jack-jotter gets in and cracks the safe, looking for goodies. And then we don't just have dust waiting for an accidental thought, but 20 pounds.
Gisbella turned pale. Dagenham turned to the intelligence man.
You make the decision, Yeovil. Do we try it my way, or do we wait?
Young Yeovil sighed. I was afraid of this, he said. Damn all scientists. I'll have to make my decision for a reason you don't know, Dagenham. The outer satellites are onto this too. We've got reason to believe that they've got agents looking for Foyle in the worst way. If we wait, they may pick him up before us. In fact, they may have him now.
So your decision is...
the blow-up. Let's bring Foyle running if we can.
No, Gisbella cried.
How? Dagenham asked, ignoring her. Oh, I've got just the one for the job. A one-way telepath named Robin Windesbury.
When?
At once. We'll clear the entire neighborhood. We'll get full news coverage and do a full broadcast. If Foyle's anywhere in the inner planets, he'll hear about it.
Not about it, Gisbella said in despair. He'll hear it. It'll be the last thing any of us hear.
Will and idea, Prestane whispered. As always, when he returned from a stormy civil court session in Leningrad, Regis Sheffield was pleased and complacent, rather like a cocky prizefighter who's won a tough fight. He stopped off at Bleckman's in Berlin for a drink and some war talk, had a second and more war talk in a legal hangout on the Quai d'Orsay, and a third session in the Skin and Bones opposite Temple Bar. By the time he arrived in his New York office, he was pleasantly illuminated. As he strode through the clattering corridors and outer rooms, he was greeted by his secretary with a handful of memo beads.
Knocked Jargo Dan Checo for a loop, Sheffield reported triumphantly. Judgment and full damages. Old DD's sore as a boil. This makes the score 11-5, my favor. He took the beads, juggled them, and then began tossing them into unlikely receptacles all over the office, including the open mouth of a gaping clerk.
Really, Mr. Sheffield, have you been drinking?
No more work today. The war news is too damn gloomy. Have to do something to stay cheerful. What say we brawl in the streets?
Mr. Sheffield.
Anything waiting for me that can't wait another day?
There's a gentleman in your office.
He made you let him get that far? Sheffield looked impressed. Who is he? God or somebody?
He won't give me his name. He gave me this.
The secretary handed Sheffield a sealed envelope. On it was scrawled, Urgent. Sheffield tore it open, his blunt features crinkling with curiosity. Then his eyes widened. Inside the envelope were two 50,000 credit notes. Sheffield turned without a word and burst into his private office. Foyle arose from his chair. These are genuine, Sheffield blurted. To the best of my knowledge. Exactly 20 of these notes were minted last year. All are on deposit in Terran treasuries. How did you get a hold of these two? Mr. Sheffield? Who else? How did you get a hold of these notes? Bribery. Why? I thought at the time it might be more convenient to have them available. For what? More bribery? If legal fees are bribery. I set my own fees, Sheffield said. He tossed the notes back to Foyle. You can produce them again if I decide to take your case, and if I decide I've been worth that to you. What's your problem? Criminal. Don't be too specific yet. And? I want to give myself up. To the police? Yes. For what crime? Crimes. Name two. Robbery and rape. Name two more. Blackmail and murder. Any other items? Treason and genocide. Does that exhaust your catalog? I think so. We may be able to unveil a few more when we get specific. Been busy, haven't you? Either you're the prince of villains or insane. I've been both, Mr. Sheffield. Why do you want to give yourself up? I've come to my senses, Foyle answered bitterly. I don't mean that. A criminal never surrenders while he's ahead. You're obviously ahead. What's the reason? The most damnable thing that ever happened to a man. I picked up a rare disease called conscience. Sheffield snorted. That can often turn fatal. It is fatal. I've realized that I've been behaving like an animal. And now you want to purge yourself? No, it isn't that simple, Foyle said grimly. That's why I've come to you. For major surgery. The man who upsets the morphology of society is a cancer.
The man who gives his own decisions priority over society is a criminal. But there are chain reactions. Purging yourself with punishment isn't enough. Everything's got to be set right. I wish to God everything could be cured just by sending me back to Joffre Martel or shooting me.
Back? Sheffield cut in keenly.
Shall I be specific?
Not yet. Go on. You sound as though you've got ethical growing pains.
That's it exactly.
Foyle paced in agitation, crumpling the banknotes with nervous fingers.
This is one hell of a mess, Sheffield. There's a girl that's got to pay for a vicious, rotten crime. The fact that I love her. No, never mind that. She has a cancer that's got to be cut out, like me. Which means I'll have to add informing to my catalogue. The fact that I'm giving myself up too doesn't make any difference.
What is all this mishmash?
Foyle turned on Sheffield. One of the New Year's bombs has just walked into your office, and it's saying, "Put it all right. Put me together again and send me home. Put together the city I flattened and the people I shattered." That's what I want to hire you for. I don't know how most criminals feel, but...
Sensible, matter-of-fact, like good businessmen who've had bad luck, Sheffield answered promptly. That's the usual attitude of the professional criminal. It's obvious you're an amateur, if you're a criminal at all. My dear sir, do be sensible. You come here extravagantly accusing yourself of robbery, rape, murder, genocide, treason, and God knows what else. Do you expect me to take you seriously? Bunny, Sheffield's assistant, jaunted into the private office. "Chief," he shouted in excitement, "something brand new's turned up. A let's jaunt. 2 society kids bribed a C-class tart to... Oh, sorry. Didn't realize you had... Bunny broke off and stared. 4 Mile! He exclaimed. What? Who? Sheffield demanded. Don't you know him, Chief? That's 4 Mile of Ceres, Gully Foyle. More than a year ago, Regis Sheffield had been hypnotically fulminated and triggered for this moment. His body had been prepared to respond without thought, and the response was lightning. Sheffield struck Foyle in half a second, temple, throat, and groin. It had been decided not to depend on weapons, since none might be available. Foyle fell. Sheffield turned on Bunny and battered him back across the office. Then he spat into his palm. It had been decided not to depend on drugs, since drugs might not be available. Sheffield's salivary glands had been prepared to respond with an anaphylaxis secretion to the stimulus. He ripped open Foyle's sleeve, dug a nail deep into the hollow of Foyle's elbow, and slashed. He pressed his spittle into the ragged cut and pinched the skin together. A strange cry was torn from Foyle's lips. The tattooing showed livid on his face. Before the stunned law assistant could make a move, Sheffield swung Foyle up to his shoulder and jaunted. He arrived in the middle of the 4 Mile circus in Old St. Pat's. It was a daring but calculated move. This was the last place he would be expected to go, and the first place where he might expect to locate the pyre. He was prepared to deal with anyone he might meet in the cathedral, but the interior of the circus was empty. The vacant tents ballooning up in the nave looked tattered. They had already been looted. Sheffield plunged into the first he saw. It was 4 Mile's traveling library, filled with hundreds of books and thousands of glittering novel beads. The jack-jaunters were not interested in literature. Sheffield threw Foyle down on the floor. Only then did he take a gun from his pocket. Foyle's eyelids fluttered. His eyes opened. "You're drugged," Sheffield said rapidly. "Don't try to jaunt, and don't move. I'm warning you. I'm prepared for anything." Dazedly, Foyle tried to rise. Sheffield instantly fired and seared his shoulder. Foyle was slammed back against the stone flooring. He was numbed and bewildered. There was a roaring in his ears and a poison coursing through his blood. "I'm warning you," Sheffield repeated. "I'm prepared for anything." "What do you want?" Foyle whispered. "2 things. 20 pounds of pyre, and you. You most of all." "You lunatic! You damned maniac! I came into your office to give it up. Hand it over." "To the OS?" "To the... what?" "The Outer Satellites? Shall I spell it for you?" "No," Foyle muttered. "I might have known. The Patriot, Sheffield, an OS agent. I should have known. I'm a fool." "You're the most valuable fool in the world, Foyle. We want you even more than pyre. That's an unknown to us, but we know what you are." "What are you talking about?" "My God, you don't know, do you? You still don't know. You haven't an inkling." "Of what?" "Listen to me," Sheffield said in a pounding voice. "I'm taking you back 2 years to Nomad, understand? Back to the death of the Nomad. One of our raiders finished her off, and they found you aboard the wreck, the last man alive." "So an OS ship did blast Nomad?" "Yes. You don't remember?" "I don't remember anything about that. I never could." "I'm telling you why. The raider got a clever idea.
They'd turn you into a decoy, a sitting duck, understand? You were half dead, but they took you aboard and patched you up. They put you into a spacesuit and cast you adrift with your microwave on. You were broadcasting distress signals and mumbling for help on every wave band. The idea was they'd lurk nearby and pick off the IP ships that came to rescue you. Foyle began to laugh. I'm getting up, he said recklessly. Shoot again, you son of a bitch, but I'm getting up. He struggled to his feet, clutching his shoulder. So Vorga shouldn't have picked me up anyway. Foyle laughed. I was a decoy. Nobody should have come near me. I was a shill, a lure, death bait. Isn't that the final irony? Nomad didn't have any right to be rescued in the first place. I didn't have any right to revenge. You still don't understand, Sheffield pounded. They were nowhere near Nomad when they set you adrift. They were 600,000 miles from Nomad. 600,000? Nomad was too far out of the shipping lanes. They wanted you to drift where ships would pass. They took you 600,000 miles sunward and set you adrift. They put you through the airlock and backed off, watching you drift. Your suit lights were blinking and you were moaning for help on the microwave. Then you disappeared. Disappeared? You were gone. No more lights, no more broadcast. They came back to check. You were gone without a trace. And the next thing we learned, you got back aboard Nomad. Impossible. Man, you space jaunted, Sheffield said savagely. You were patched and delirious, but you space jaunted. You space jaunted 600,000 miles through the void back to the wreck of the Nomad. You did something that's never been done before. God knows how. You don't even know yourself, but we're going to find out. I'm taking you out to the satellites with me, and we'll get that secret out of you if we have to tear it out. He took Foyle's throat in his powerful hand and hefted the gun in the other. But first, I want the pyre. You'll produce it, Foyle. Don't think you won't. He lashed Foyle across the forehead with the gun. I'll do anything to get it. Don't think I won't. He smashed Foyle again, coldly, efficiently. If you're looking for a purge, man, you've found it. Bunny leaped off the public jaunt stage at 5 points and streaked into the main entrance of Central Intelligence's New York office like a frightened rabbit. He shot past the outermost guard cordon, through the protective labyrinth, and into the inner offices. He acquired a train of excited pursuers and found himself face to face with the more seasoned guards who had calmly jaunted to positions ahead of him and were waiting. Bunny began to shout, Yeovil! 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 Still running, he dodged around desks, kicked over chairs, and created an incredible uproar. He continued his yelling, Yeovil! 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 Just before they were about to put him out of his misery, Yang Yeovil appeared. What's all this? He snapped. I gave orders that Miss Wednesbury was to have absolute quiet. Yeovil! Bunny shouted. Who's that? Sheffield's assistant. What? Bunny? Foyle! Bunny howled. Gully Foyle! Yang Yeovil covered the 50 feet between them in exactly 1.6 seconds. What about Foyle? Sheffield's got him, Bunny gasped. Sheffield? When? Half an hour ago. Why didn't he bring him here? He abducted him. I think Sheffield's an OS agent. Why didn't you come at once? Sheffield jaunted with Foyle, knocked him stiff and disappeared. I went looking all over, took a chance. Must have made 50 jaunts in 20 minutes. Amateur, Yang Yeovil exclaimed in exasperation. Why didn't you leave that to the pros? Found them. You found them? Where? Old St. Pat's. Sheffield's after the... But Yang Yeovil had turned on his heel and was tearing back up the corridor, shouting, Robin! Robin, stop! Stop! And then their ears were bruised by the bellow of thunder. Chapter 15. Like widening rings in a pond, the will and the idea spread, searching out, touching and tripping the delicate subatomic trigger of pyre. The thought found particles, dust, smoke, vapor, motes, and molecules. The will and the idea transformed them all. In Sicily, where Dottore Franco Torre had worked for an exhausting month, attempting to unlock the secret of one slug of pyre, the residues and the precipitates had been dumped down a drain which led to the sea. For many months, the Mediterranean currents had drifted these residues across the sea bottom. In an instant, a humped-backed mound of water towering 50 feet high traced the courses, northeast to Sardinia and southwest to Tripoli. In a microsecond, the surface of the Mediterranean was raised into the twisted casting of a giant earthworm that wound around the islands of Pantelleria, Lampedusa, Linosa, and Malta. Some of the residues had been burned off.
had gone up the chimney with the smoke and vapor to drift for hundreds of miles before settling. These minute particles showed where they had finally settled, in Morocco, Algeria, Libya, and Greece, with blinding pinpoint explosions of incredible minuteness and intensity. And some motes, still drifting in the stratosphere, revealed their presence with brilliant gleams like daylight stars. In Texas, where Professor John Mantley had had the same baffling experiences with Pyre, most of the residues had gone down the shaft of an exhausted oil well, which was also used to accommodate radioactive wastes. A deep water table had absorbed much of the matter, and spread it slowly over an area of some 10 square miles. 10 square miles of Texas flats shook themselves into corduroy. A vast untapped deposit of natural gas at last found a vent and came shrieking up to the surface, where sparks from flying stones ignited it into a roaring torch 200 feet high. A milligram of pyre, deposited on a disc of filter paper long since discarded, forgotten, rounded up in a wastepaper drive, and at last pulped into a mold for type metal, destroyed the entire late-night edition of the Glasgow Observer. A fragment of pyre spattered on a lab smock, long since converted into rag paper, destroyed a thank-you note written by Lady Shrapnel, and destroyed an additional ton of first-class mail in the process. A shirt cuff, inadvertently dipped into an acid solution of pyre, long abandoned along with the shirt, and now worn under his mink suit by a jack-jaunter, blasted off the wrist and hand of the jack-jaunter in one fiery amputation. A decimilligram of pyre, still adhering to a former evaporation crystal now in use as an ashtray, kindled a fire that scorched the office of one Baker, dealer in freaks and purveyor of monsters. Across the length and breadth of the planet were isolated explosions, chains of explosions, traceries of fire, pinpoints of fire, meteor flares in the sky, great craters and narrow channels plowed in the earth, exploded in the earth, vomited forth from the earth. In Old St. Pat's, nearly 1/10 of a gram of pyre was exposed in 4 Mile's laboratory. The rest was sealed in its inert lead isotope safe, protected from accidental and intentional psychokinetic ignition. The blinding blast of energy generated from that 1/10 of a gram blew out the walls and split the floors as though an internal earthquake had convulsed the building. The buttresses held the pillars for a split second and then crumbled. Down came towers, spires, pillars, buttresses, and roof in a thundering avalanche to hesitate above the yawning crater of the floor in a tangled, precarious equilibrium. A breath of wind, a distant vibration, and the collapse would continue until the crater was filled solid with pulverized rubble. The star-like heat of the explosion ignited 100 fires and melted the ancient thick copper of the collapsed roof. If a milligram more of pyre had been exposed to detonation, the heat would have been intense enough to vaporize the metal immediately. Instead, it glowed white and began to flow. It streamed off the wreckage of the crumbled roof and began searching its way downward through the jumbled stone, iron, wood, and glass, like some monstrous molten mold creeping through a tangled web. Dagenham and Yang Yovel arrived almost simultaneously. A moment later, Robin Wednesbury appeared, and then Gisbella McQueen. A dozen intelligence operatives and 6 Dagenham couriers arrived along with Prestane's jaunt watch and the police. They formed a cordon around the blazing block, but there were very few spectators. After the shock of the New Year's Eve raid, that single explosion had frightened half of New York into another wild jaunt for safety. The uproar of the fire was frightful, and the massive grind of tons of wreckage in uneasy balance was ominous. Everyone was forced to shout, and yet was fearful of the vibrations. Yang Yovel bawled the news about Foyle and Sheffield into Dagenham's ear. Dagenham nodded and displayed his deadly smile. "We'll have to go in," he shouted. "Fire suits," Yang Yovel shouted. He disappeared and reappeared with a pair of white disaster crew fire suits. At the sight of these, Robin and Gisbella began shouting hysterical objections. The 2 men ignored them, wriggled into the inert isomer armor, and inched into the inferno. Within Old St. Pat's, it was as though a monstrous hand had churned a log jam of wood, stone, and metal. Through every interstice crawled tongues of molten copper, slowly working downward, igniting wood, crumbling stone, shattering glass. Where the copper flowed, it merely glowed, but where it poured, it spattered dazzling droplets of white-hot metal. Beneath the log jam yawned a black crater, where formerly the floor of the cathedral had been. The explosion had split the flagstone asunder, revealing the cellars, subcellars, and vaults deep below the building.
These too were filled with a snarl of stones, beams, pipe, wire, and the remnants of the 4-mile circus tents, all fitfully lit small fires. Then the first of the copper dripped down into the crater and illuminated it with a brilliant molten splash. Dagenham pounded Yang Yovel's shoulder to attract his attention and pointed. Halfway down the crater, in the midst of the tangle, lay the body of Regis Sheffield, drawn and quartered by the explosion. Yang Yovel pounded Dagenham's shoulder and pointed. Almost at the bottom of the crater lay Gully Foyle, and as the blazing splatter of molten copper illuminated him, they saw him move. The two men at once turned and crawled out of the cathedral for a conference. "He's alive."
"How is it possible?"
"I can guess. Did you see the shreds of the tent wadded near him? It must have been a freak explosion up at the other end of the cathedral, and the tents in between cushioned Foyle. Then he dropped through the floor before anything else could hit him."
"I'll buy that. We've got to get him out. He's the only man who knows where the pyre is."
"Could it still be here? Unexploded?"
"If it's in the ILI safe, yes. That stuff is inert to anything. Never mind that now. How are we going to get him out?"
"Well, we can't work down from above."
"Why not?"
"Isn't it obvious? One false step and the whole mess will collapse."
"Did you see that copper flowing down?"
"God, yes."
"Well, if we don't get him out in 10 minutes, he'll be at the bottom of a pool of molten copper."
"What can we do?"
"I've got a long shot."
"What?"
"The cellars of the old RCA buildings across the street are as deep as St. Pat's."
"And?"
"We'll go down and try to hole through. Maybe we can pull Foyle out from the bottom."
A squad broke into the ancient RCA buildings, abandoned and sealed up for 2 generations. They went down into the cellar arcades, crumbling museums of the retail stores of centuries past. They located the ancient elevator shafts and dropped through them into the sub-cellars filled with electric installations, heat plants, and refrigeration systems. They went down into the sump cellars, waist-deep in water from the streams of prehistoric Manhattan Island, streams that still flowed beneath the streets that covered them. As they waded through the sump cellars, bearing east-northeast to bring them up opposite to St. Pat's vaults, they suddenly discovered that the pitch dark was illuminated by a fiery flickering up ahead. Dagenham shouted and flung himself forward. The explosion that had opened the subcellars of St. Pat's had split the septum between its vaults and those of the RCA buildings. Through a jagged rent in stone and earth, they could peer into the bottom of the inferno. 50 feet inside was Foyle, trapped in a labyrinth of twisted beams, stones, pipe, metal, and wire. He was illuminated by a roaring glow from above him and fitful flames around him. His clothes were on fire, and the tattooing was livid on his face. He moved feebly, like a bewildered animal in a maze. "My God!" Yang Yovel exclaimed. "The Burning Man!"
"What?"
"The Burning Man I saw on the Spanish stairs. Never mind that now. What can we do?"
"Go in, of course."
A brilliant white gob of copper suddenly oozed down close to Foyle and splashed 10 feet below him. It was followed by a second, a third, a slow, steady stream. A pool began to form. Dagenham and Yang Yovel sealed the faceplates of their armor and crawled through the break in the septum. After 3 minutes of agonized struggling, they realized that they could not get through the labyrinth to Foyle. It was locked to the outside, but not from the inside. Dagenham and Yang Yovel backed up to confer.
"We can't get to him," Dagenham shouted, "but he can get out."
"Oh, he can't jaunt, obviously, or he wouldn't be there."
"No, he can climb. Look, he goes left, then up, reverses and makes a turn along that beam, slides under it and pushes through that tangle of wire. The wire can't be pushed in, which is why we can't get to him. But it can push out, which is how he can get out. It's a one-way door."
The pool of molten copper crept up towards Foyle. "If he doesn't get out soon, he'll be roasted alive."
"We'll have to talk him out. Tell him what to do."
The men began shouting, "Foyle! Foyle! Foyle!" The burning man in the maze continued to move feebly. The downpour of sizzling copper increased.
"Foyle! Turn left! Can you hear me? Foyle! Turn left and climb up! You can get out if you'll listen to me."
"Turn left and climb up."
"Then, Foyle!"
"He's not listening. Foyle! Gully Foyle, can you hear us?"
"Send for Jiz. Maybe he'll listen to her."
"No, Robin. She'll telesend. He'll have to listen."
"But will she do it? Save him, of all people?"
"She'll have to. This is bigger than hatred. It's the biggest damn thing the world's ever encountered. I'll get her."
Yang Yovel started to crawl out. Dagenham stopped him. "Wait, Yo. Look at him. He's flickering. Flickering? Look, he's blinking like a glowworm. Watch. Now you see him, and now you don't. The figure of Foyle was appearing, disappearing, and reappearing in rapid succession, like a firefly caught in a flaming trap. What's he doing now? What's he trying to do? What's happening? He was trying to escape. Like a trapped firefly or some seabird caught in the blazing brazier of a naked beacon fire, he was beating about in a frenzy, a blackened, burning creature, dashing himself against the unknown. Sound came as sight to him, as light in strange patterns. He saw the sound of his shouted name in vivid rhythms. Foyle, 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 Foyle. Motion came as sound to him. He heard the writhing of the flames. He heard the swirls of smoke. He heard the flickering, jeering shadows, all speaking deafeningly in strange tongues. Vorga, the steam asked. Asha, Asha, Ritkitzit Magid, the quick shadows answered. Oh, ah, he, the heat ripples clamored. Even the flames smoldering on his own clothes roared gibberish in his ears. Monster Geistman, they bellowed. Color was pain to him. Heat, cold, pressure, sensations of intolerable heights and plunging depths, of tremendous accelerations and crushing compressions. Red receded from him. Green light attacked. Indigo undulated with sickening speed like a shuddering snake. Touch was taste to him. The feel of wood was acrid and chalky in his mouth. Metal was salt, stone tasted sour-sweet to the touch of his fingers, and the feel of glass cloyed his palate like an over-rich pastry. Smell was touch. Hot stone smelled like velvet caressing his cheek. Smoke and ash were harsh tweeds rasping his skin, almost the feel of wet canvas. Molten metal smelled like a blow hammering his heart, and the ionization of the pirate explosion filled the air with ozone that smelled like water trickling through his fingers. He was not blind, not deaf, not senseless. Sensation came to him, but filtered through a nervous system twisted and short-circuited by the shock of the pirate concussion. He was suffering from synesthesia, that rare condition in which perception receives messages from the objective world and relays these messages to the brain, but there in the brain the sensory perceptions are confused with one another. So, in Foyle, sound registered as sight, motion registered as sound, colors became pain sensations, touch became taste, and smell became touch. He was not only trapped within the labyrinth of the inferno under Old St. Pat's, he was trapped in the kaleidoscope of his own cross senses. Again desperate, on the ghastly verge of extinction, he abandoned all disciplines and habits of living, or perhaps they were stripped from him. He reverted from a conditioned product of environment and experience to an inchoate creature, craving escape and survival, and exercising every power it possessed. And again the miracle of 2 years ago took place. The undivided energy of an entire human organism, of every cell, fiber, nerve, and muscle empowered that craving, and again Foyle space-jaunted. He went hurtling along the geodesical space lines of the curving universe at the speed of thought, far exceeding that of light. His spatial velocity was so frightful that his time axis was twisted from the vertical line drawn from the past through now to the future. He went flickering along the new near-horizontal axis, this new space-time geodesic, driven by the miracle of a human mind no longer inhibited by concepts of the impossible. Again he achieved what Helmut Grant and Enzio Dandridge and scores of other experimenters had failed to do. Because his blind panic forced him to abandon the spatio-temporal inhibitions that had defeated previous attempts. He did not jaunt to elsewhere, but to elsewhen. But most important, the fourth-dimensional awareness, the complete picture of the arrow of time and his position on it, which is born in every man but deeply submerged by the trivia of living, was in Foyle close to the surface. He jaunted along the space-time geodesics to elsewheres and elsewhens, translating I, the square root of -1, from an imaginary number into reality by a magnificent act of imagination. He jaunted. He jaunted back through time to his past. He became the Burning Man, who had inspired himself with terror and perplexity on the beach in Australia, in a quack's office in Shanghai, on the Spanish stairs in Rome, on the moon, in the Skopje colony on Mars. He jaunted back through time, revisiting the savage battles that he himself had fought in Gully Foyle's tiger hunt for vengeance. His flaming appearances were sometimes noted, other times not. He jaunted. He was a bored nomad, drifting in the empty frost of space. He stood in the door to nowhere.
The cold was the taste of lemons, and the vacuum was a rake of talons on his skin. The sun and the stars were a shaking ague that racked his bones. Gloma Frednis! Motion roared in his ears. It was a figure with its back to him, vanishing down the corridor. A figure with a copper cauldron of provisions over its shoulder. A figure darting, floating, squirming through freefall. It was Gully Foyle. Miat Jesrot! The sight of his motion bellowed. Aha! Oho! Migit not to kak! The flicker of light and shade answered. Oh, so! The whirling raffle of debris in his wake murmured. The lemon taste in his mouth became unbearable. The rake of talons on his skin was torture. He jaunted. He reappeared in the furnace beneath Old St. Pat's less than a second after he had disappeared from there. He was drawn, as the seabird is drawn, again and again to the flames from which it is struggling to escape. He endured the roaring torture for only another moment. He jaunted. He was in the depths of Joffre Martel. The velvet black darkness was bliss, paradise, euphoria. Ah! He cried in relief. Ah! Came the echo of his voice, and the sound was translated into a blinding pattern of light. Ah, 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 ah. The burning man winced. Stop! He called, blinded by the noise. Again came the dazzling pattern of the echo. Stop, 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 stop. A distant clatter of steps came to his eyes in soft patterns of vertical borealis streamers. Clatter, 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 clatter. There came a shout, like a zigzag of lightning. A beam of light attacked! It was the search party from the Joffre Martel Hospital, tracking Foyle and Gisbella McQueen by geophone. The burning man disappeared, but not before he had unwittingly decoyed the searchers from the trail of the vanished fugitives. He was back under Old St. Pat's, reappearing only an instant after his last disappearance. His wild beatings into the unknown sent him stumbling up geodesic space timelines that inevitably brought him back to the now he was trying to escape, for in the inverted saddle curve of space-time, his now was the deepest depression in the curve. He could drive himself up the geodesic lines into the past or future, but inevitably he must fall back down into his own now, like a thrown ball hurled up the sloping walls of an infinite pit, to land, hang poised for a moment, and then roll back into the depths. But still he beat into the unknown in his desperation. Again he jaunted. He was on Jervis Beach on the Australian coast. The motion of the surf was bawling, Lagermist Croathaven! The churning of the surf blinded him with the lights of batteries of footlights. Gully Foyle and Robin Wednesbury stood before him. The body of a man lay on the sand, which felt like vinegar in the burning man's mouth. The wind brushing his face tasted like brown paper. Foyle opened his mouth and exclaimed. The sound came out in burning star bubbles. Foyle took a step. Grash! The motion blared. The burning man jaunted. He was in the office of Dr. Sergei Arel in Shanghai. Foyle was again before him, speaking light patterns. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? He flickered back to the agony of Old St. Pat's and jaunted again. He was on the brawling Spanish stairs. 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 The burning man jaunted. It was cold again, with the taste of lemons, and vacuum raked his skin with unspeakable talons. He was peering through the porthole of a silvery yawl. The jagged mountains of the moon towered in the background. Through the porthole he could see the jangling racket of blood pumps and oxygen pumps, and hear the uproar of the motion Gully Foyle made towards him. The clawing of the vacuum caught his throat in an agonizing grip. The geodesic lines of space-time rolled him back to now under Old St. Pat's, where less than 2 seconds had elapsed since he first began his frenzied struggle. Once more, like a burning spear, he hurled himself into the unknown. He was in the Skopje catacomb on Mars. The white slug that was Lindsay Joyce was writhing before him. No, 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 her motion screamed. Don't hurt me, don't kill me, no, please. The burning man opened his tiger mouth and laughed. She hurts, he said. The sound of his voice burned his eyes. She hurts, she hurts, she hurts. Who are you? Foyle whispered. Who are you? The burning man winced. Too bright, he said. Less light. Foyle took a step forward. Blagadama! The motion roared. The Burning Man clapped his hands over his ears in agony. "Too loud!" he cried. "Don't move so loud!" The writhing Skoptsy's motion was still screaming, beseeching, "Don't hurt me! Don't hurt me!" The Burning Man laughed again. She was mute to normal men, but to his freak-crossed senses her meaning was clear. "Listen to her. She's screaming, begging. She doesn't want to die. She doesn't want to be hurt. Listen to her."
"It was Olivia Prestane gave the order. Olivia Prestane, not me. Don't hurt me. Olivia Prestane."
"She's telling who gave the order. Can't you hear? Listen with your eyes. She says Olivia."
What?
The checkerboard glitter of Foyle's question was too much for him. The Burning Man interpreted the Skoptsy's agony again. "She says Olivia. Olivia Prestane. Olivia Prestane. Olivia Prestane." He jaunted. He fell back into the pit under Old St. Pat's, and suddenly his confusion and despair told him he was dead. This was the finish of Gully Foyle. This was eternity, and hell was real. What he had seen was the past passing before his crumbling senses in the final moment of death. What he was enduring, he must endure through all time. He was dead. He knew he was dead. He refused to submit to eternity. He beat again into the unknown. The Burning Man jaunted. He was in a scintillating mist, a snowflake cluster of stars, a shower of liquid. Diamonds. There was the touch of butterfly wings on his skin. There was the taste of a strand of cool pearls in his mouth. His crossed kaleidoscopic senses could not tell him where he was, but he knew he wanted to remain in this nowhere forever.
"Hello, Gully."
"Who's that?"
"This is Robin."
"Robin?"
"Robin Wednesbury that was."
"That was?"
"Robin Yeovil that is."
"I don't understand. Am I dead?"
"No, Gully."
"Where am I?"
"A long, long way from Old St. Pat's."
"But where?"
"I can't take the time to explain, Gully. You've only got a few moments here."
"Why?"
"Because you haven't learned to jaunt through space-time yet. You've got to go back and learn."
"But I do know. I must know. Sheffield said I space jaunted to Nomad. 600,000 miles.
"That was an accident, then, Gully. And you'll do it again, after you teach yourself. But you're not doing it now. You don't know how to hold on yet. How to turn any now into reality. You'll tumble back into Old St. Pat's in a moment."
"Robin, I've just remembered. I have bad news for you."
"I know, Gully."
"Your mother and sisters are dead."
"I've known for a long time, Gully."
"How long?"
"For 30 years.
"That's impossible."
"No, it isn't. This is a long, long way from Old St. Pat's. I've been waiting to tell you how to save yourself from the fire, Gully. Will you listen?"
"I'm not dead?"
"No."
"I'll listen."
"Your senses are all confused. It'll pass soon, but I won't give the directions in left and right or up and down. I'll tell you what you can understand now."
"Why are you helping me? After what I've done to you?"
"That's all forgiven and forgotten, Gully. Now listen to me. When you get back to Old St. Pat's, turn around until you're facing the loudest shadows. Got that?"
"Yes."
"Go towards the noise until you feel a deep prickling on your skin. Then stop.
"Then stop."
Make a half turn into compression and a feeling of falling. Follow that.
"Follow that."
You'll pass through a solid sheet of light and come to the taste of quinine. That's really a mass of wire. Push straight through the quinine until you see something that sounds like trip hammers. You'll be safe."
"How do you know all this, Robin?"
"I've been briefed by an expert, Gully." There was the sensation of laughter. "You'll be falling back into the past any moment now. Peter and Saul are here. They say au revoir and good luck. And Jiz Dagenham, too. Good luck, Gully dear."
"The past. This is the future."
"Yes, Gully."
"Am I here? Is Olivia?"
And then he was tumbling down, down, down the space-time lines, back into the dreadful pit of now.
Chapter 16. His senses uncrossed in the ivory and gold star chamber of Castle Prestane. Sight became sight, and he saw the high mirrors and stained glass windows, the gold-tooled library with android librarian on library ladder. Sound became sound, and he heard the android secretary tapping the manual bead recorder at the Louis Quinn's desk.
Taste became taste as he sipped the cognac that the robot bartender handed him. He knew he was at bay, faced with the decision of his life. He ignored his enemies and examined the perpetual beam carved in the robot face of the bartender, the classic Irish grin. "Thank you," Foyle said. "My pleasure, sir," the robot replied, and awaited its next cue. "Nice day," Foyle remarked. "Always a lovely day somewhere, sir," the robot beamed. "Awful day," Foyle said. "Always a lovely day somewhere, sir," the robot responded. "Day," Foyle said. "Always a lovely day somewhere, sir," the robot said. Foyle turned to the others. "That's me," he said, motioning to the robot. "That's all of us. We prattle about free will, but we're nothing but response. Mechanical reaction in prescribed grooves. So, here I am, waiting to respond. Press the buttons and I'll jump." He aped the canned voice of the robot. "My pleasure to serve, sir." Suddenly his tone lashed them. "What do you want?" They stirred with uneasy purpose. Foyle was burned, beaten, chastened, and yet he was taking control of all of them. "We'll stipulate the threats," Foyle said. "I'm to be hung, drawn, quartered, tortured in hell if I don't... what? What do you want?" "I want my property," Prestane said, smiling coldly. 18 and some odd pounds of pyre, yes. What do you offer?" "I make no offer, sir. I demand what is mine." Yang Yovel and Dagenham began to speak. Foyle silenced them. "One button at a time, gentlemen. Prestane is trying to make me jump at present." He turned to Prestane. "Press harder, blood and money, or find another button. Who are you to make demands at this moment?" Prestane tightened his lips. "The law," he began. "What? Threats?" Foyle laughed. "Am I to be frightened into anything?" "Don't be imbecile. Speak to me the way you did New Year's Eve, Prestane. Without mercy, without forgiveness, without hypocrisy." Prestane bowed, took a breath, and ceased to smile. "I offer you power," he said. "Adoption as my heir, partnership in Prestane Enterprises, the chieftainship of clan and sept. Together we can own the world." "With pyre?" "Yes." "Your proposal is noted and declined. Will you offer your daughter?" "Olivia." Prestane choked and clenched his fists. "Yes, Olivia. Where is she?" "You scum!" Prestane cried. "Filth! Common thief! You dare to—" "Will you offer your daughter for the pyre?" "Yes," Prestane answered, barely audible. Foyle turned to Dagenham. "Press your button, Deathshead," he said. "If the discussion's to be conducted on this level," Dagenham snapped. "It is. Without mercy, without forgiveness, without hypocrisy. What do you offer?" "Glory." "Huh?" "We can't offer money or power. We can offer honor. Gully Foyle, the man who saved the inner planets from annihilation. We can offer security. We'll wipe out your criminal record, give you an honored name, guarantee a niche in the Hall of Fame." "No," Gisbella McQueen cut in sharply. "Don't accept. If you want to be a savior, destroy the secret. Don't give pyre to anyone." "What is pyre?" "Quiet," Dagenham snapped. "It's a thermonuclear explosive that's detonated by thought alone. By psychokinesis," Gisbella said. "What thought?" "The desire of anyone to detonate it, directed at it. That brings it to critical mass if it's not insulated by inert lead isotope." "I told you to be quiet," Dagenham growled. "If we're all to have a chance at him, I want mine. This is bigger than idealism. Nothing's bigger than idealism." "Foyle's secret is," Yang Yovel murmured. "I know how relatively unimportant pyre is just now." He smiled at Foyle. "Sheffield's law assistant overheard part of your little discussion in Old St. Pat's. We know about the space jaunting." There was a sudden hush. "Space jaunting?" Dagenham exclaimed. "Impossible. You don't mean it." "I do mean it. Foyle's demonstrated that space jaunting is not impossible. He jaunted 600,000 miles, from an OS raider to the wreck of the Nomad. As I said, this is far bigger than pyre. I should like to discuss that matter first." "Everyone's been telling what they want," Robin Witnessbury said slowly. "What do you want, Gully Foyle?" "Thank you," Foyle answered. "I want to be punished." "What?" "I want to be purged,"
he said in a suffocated voice. The stigmata began to appear on his bandaged face. I want to pay for what I've done, and settle the account. I want to get rid of this damnable cross I'm carrying, this ache that's cracking my spine. I want to go back to Joffre Martel. I want a Lobo if I deserve it, and I know I do. I want...
You want escape, Dagenham interrupted. There's no escape.
I want release. Out of the question, Yang Yovel said. There's too much of value locked up in your head to be lost by lobotomy.
We're beyond easy, childish things like crime and punishment, Dagenham added.
No, Robin objected. There must always be sin and forgiveness. We're never beyond that.
Profit and loss, sin and forgiveness, idealism and realism.
Foyle smiled.
You're all so sure, so simple, so single-minded. I'm the only one in doubt. Let's see how sure you really are. You'll give up Olivia Pristane? To me, yes? Will you give her up to the law? She's a killer.
Pristane tried to rise, then fell back in his chair.
There must be forgiveness, Robin. Will you forgive Olivia Pristane? She murdered your mother and sisters.
Robin turned ashen. Yang Yovel tried to protest.
The outer satellites don't have pyre, Yovel. Sheffield revealed that. Would you use it on them anyway? Will you turn my name into common anathema, like lynch and boycott?
Foyle turned to Gisbella.
Will your idealism take you back to Joffre Martel to serve out your sentence? And you, Dagenham, will you give her up? Let her go?
He listened to the outcries and watched the confusion for a moment, bitter and constrained.
Life is so simple, he said. This decision is so simple, isn't it? Am I to respect Pristane's property rights, the welfare of the planets, Gisbella's ideals, Dagenham's realism, Robin's conscience? Press the button and watch the robot jump. But I'm not a robot. I'm a freak of the universe, a thinking animal. And I'm trying to see my way clear through this morass. Am I to turn pyre over the world and let it destroy itself? Am I to teach the world how to space jaunt and let us spread our freak show from galaxy to galaxy through all the universe? What's the answer?
The bartender robot hurled its mixing glass across the room with a resounding crash. In the amazing silence that followed, Dagenham grunted, Damn, my radiation's disrupted your dolls again, Pristane.
The answer is yes, the robot said quite distinctly.
What?
Foyle asked, taken aback.
The answer to your question is yes.
Thank you,
Foyle said. My pleasure, sir, the robot responded. A man is a member of society first, and an individual second. You must go along with society, whether it chooses destruction or not. Completely haywire, Dagenham said impatiently. Switch it off, Pristane.
Wait,
Foyle commanded. He looked at the beaming grin engraved in the steel robot face.
But society can be so stupid, so confused. You've witnessed this conference.
Yes, sir, but you must teach, not dictate. You must teach society.
To space jaunt? Why? Why reach out to the stars and galaxies? What for?
Because you're alive, sir. You might as well ask, why is life? Don't ask about it. Live it.
Quite mad, Dagenham muttered.
But fascinating, Yang Yovel murmured. There's got to be more than life than just living, Foyle said to the robot.
Then find it for yourself, sir. Don't ask the world to stop moving because you have doubts.
Why can't we all move forward together?
Because you're all different. You're not lemmings. Some must lead and hope that the rest will follow.
Who leads?
The men who must. Driven men. Compelled men.
Freak men.
You're all freaks, sir. But you always have been freaks. Life is a freak. That's its hope and glory.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, sir.
You've saved the day.
Always a lovely day somewhere, sir.
The robot beamed. Then it fizzed, jangled, and collapsed. Foyle turned on the others.
That thing's right, he said. And you're wrong. Who are we, any of us, to make a decision for the world? Let the world make its own decisions. Who are we to keep secrets from the world? Let the world know and decide for itself. Come to Old St. Pat's.
He jaunted. They followed. The square block was still cordoned, and by now an enormous crowd had gathered. So many of the rash and curious were jaunting into the smoking ruins that the police had set up a protective induction field to keep them out. Even so, urchins, curio-seekers, and irresponsibles attempted to jaunt into the wreckage,
only to be burned by the induction field and depart, squawking. At a signal from Yang Yovel, the field was turned off. Foyle went through the hot rubble to the east wall of the cathedral, which stood to a height of 15 feet. He felt the smoking stones, pressed and levered. There came a grinding grumble, and a 3x5 section jarred open, and then stuck. Foyle gripped it and pulled. The section trembled, then the roasted hinges collapsed and the stone panel crumbled. 2 centuries before, when organized religion had been abolished and orthodox worshippers of all faiths had been driven underground, some devout souls had constructed this secret niche in old St. Pat's and turned it into an altar. The gold of the crucifix still shone with the brilliance of eternal faith. At the foot of the cross rested a small black box of inert lead isotope. "Is this a sign?" Foyle panted. "Is this the answer I want?" He snatched the heavy safe before any could seize it. He jaunted 100 yards to the remnants of the cathedral steps facing Fifth Avenue. There, he opened the safe in full view of the gaping crowds. A shout of consternation went up from the intelligence crews, who knew the truth of its contents. "Foyle!" Dagenham cried. "For God's sake, Foyle!" Yang Yovel shouted. Foyle withdrew a slug of pyre, the color of iodine crystals, the size of a cigarette. 1 pound of transplutonian isotopes in solid solution. "Pyre!" he roared to the mob. "Take it, keep it, it's your future! Pyre!" He hurled the slug into the crowd and roared over his shoulder. "San Fran, Russian Hill stage!" He jaunted St. Louis, Denver to San Francisco, arriving at the Russian Hill stage, where it was 4 in the afternoon, and the streets were bustling with late shopper jaunters. "Pyre!" Foyle bellowed. His devil face glowed blood red. He was an appalling sight. "Pyre! It's danger, it's death, it's yours! Make them tell you what it is!" "Nome!" he called to his pursuit as it arrived, and jaunted. It was lunch hour in Nome, and the lumberjacks jaunting down from the sawmills for their beefsteak and beer were startled by the tiger-faced man, who hurled a 1-pound slug of iodine-colored alloy in their midst, and shouted in the gutter tongue, "Pyre, you hear me, man? You listen to me, you! Pyre is filthy death for all us! All us! Grab no guesses, you! Make 'em tell you about Pyre is all!" To Dagenham, Yang Yovel, and others jaunting in after him, as all was seconds too late, he shouted, "Tokyo, Imperial Stage!" He disappeared a split second before their shots reached him. It was 9 o'clock of a crisp morning in Tokyo, and the morning rush hour crowd milling around the Imperial Stage alongside the carp ponds was paralyzed by a tiger-faced samurai, who appeared and hurled a slug of curious metal and unforgettable warnings and admonitions at them. Foyle continued to Bangkok, where it was pouring rain, and Delhi, where a monsoon raged. All was pursued in his mad dog course. In Baghdad it was 3 in the morning, and the nightclub crowd and pub crawlers who stayed a perpetual half-hour ahead of closing time around the world cheered him alcoholically. In Paris, and again in London, it was midnight, and the mobs on the Champs-Élysées and the Piccadilly Circus were galvanized by Foyle's appearance and passionate exhortation. Having led his pursuers 3/4 of the way around the world in 50 minutes, Foyle permitted them to overtake him in London. He permitted them to knock him down, take the ILI safe from his arms, count the remaining slugs of pyre, and slam the safe shut. "There's enough left for a war, plenty left for destruction, annihilation, if you dare." He was laughing and sobbing in hysterical triumph. "Millions for defense, but not 1 cent for survival." "Do you realize what you've done, you damned killer?" Dagenham shouted. "I know what I've done. 9 pounds of pyre scattered around the world. 1 thought, and we'll... How can we get it back without telling them the truth? For God's sake, yo, keep that crowd back. Don't let them hear this." "Impossible." "Then let's jaunt." "No!" Foyle roared. "Let them hear this. Let them hear everything." "You're insane, man. You've handed a loaded gun to children." "Stop treating them like children, and they'll stop behaving like children. Who the hell are you to play monitor?" "What are you talking about?" "Stop treating them like children. Explain the loaded gun to them. Bring it all out in the open." Foyle laughed savagely. "I've ended the last Star Chamber conference in the world. I've blown the last secret wide open. No more secrets from now on. No more telling the children what's best for them to know. Let 'em all grow up. It's about time." "Christ, he is insane." "Am I? I've handed life and death back to the people who do the living and dying. The common man's been whipped and led long enough by driven men like us. Compulsive men. Tiger men who can't help lashing the world before them. We're all tigers, the 3 of us. But who the hell are we to make decisions for the world just because we're compulsive? Let the world make its own choice between life and death. Why should we be saddled with the responsibility? We're not saddled, Yang said quietly. We're driven. We're forced to seize the responsibility that the average man shirks. Then let him stop shirking it. Let him stop tossing his duty and guilt onto the shoulders of the first freak who comes along grabbing at it. Are we to be scapegoats for the world forever?
Damn you, Dagenham raged. Don't you realize you can't trust people? They don't know enough for their own good.
Then let them learn or die. We're all in this together. Let's live together or die together.
Do you want to die in their ignorance? You've got to figure out how we can get those slugs back without blowing everything wide open.
No, I believe in them. I was one of them before I turned tiger. They can all turn uncommon if they're kicked awake like I was.
Foyle shook himself and abruptly jaunted to the bronze head of Eros, 50 feet above the counter of Piccadilly Circus. He perched precariously and bawled,
"Listen to me, all you! Listen, man! Gonna sermonize me! Dig this, you!"
He was answered with a roar.
"You pigs, you! You goof like pigs is all! You got the most in you and you use the least! You hear me, you? Got a million in you and you spend pennies! Got a genius in you and you think crazies! Got a heart in you and feel empties! All of you, every you!"
He was jeered. He continued with the hysterical passion of the possessed.
"Take a war to make you spend, take a jam to make you think, take a challenge to make you great. Rest of the time you sit around lazy, you. Pigs, you. All right, goddamn you. I challenge you, me. Die or live and be great. Blow yourselves to Christ gone or come and find me, Gully Foyle, and I make you men. I make you great. I give you the stars."
He disappeared. He jaunted up the geodesic lines of space-time to an elsewhere and an elsewhen. He arrived in chaos. He hung in a precarious para-now for a moment, and then tumbled back into chaos.
"It can't be done," he thought. "It must be done."
He jaunted again, a burning spear flung from an unknown into unknown, and again he tumbled back into a chaos of para-space and para-time. He was lost in nowhere.
"I believe," he thought. "I have faith."
He jaunted again, and failed again.
Faith in what? He asked himself, adrift in limbo. Faith in faith, he answered himself. It isn't necessary to have something to believe in. It's only necessary to believe that somewhere there's something worthy of belief.
He jaunted for the last time, and the power of his willingness to believe transformed the para-now of his random destination into a real now. Rigel in Orion, burning blue-white, 540 light-years from Earth, 10,000 times more luminous than the Sun, a cauldron of energy circled by 37 massive planets. Foyle hung, freezing and suffocating in space, face to face with the incredible destiny in which he believed, but which was still inconceivable. He hung in space for a blinding moment, as helpless, as amazed, and yet as inevitable as the first gilled creature to come out of the sea and hang gulping on a primeval beach in the dawn history of life on Earth. He space-jaunted, turning para-now into now. Vega in Lyra, an AO star 26 light-years from Earth, burning bluer than Rigel, planetless but encircled by swarms of blazing comets whose gaseous trails scintillated across the blue-black firmament. And again he turned now into now. Canopus, yellow as the sun, gigantic, thunderous in the silent wastes of space, at last invaded by a creature that once was Guild. The creature hung, gulping on the beach of the universe, nearer death than life, nearer the future than the past, 10 leagues beyond the wide world's end. It wondered at the masses of dust, meteors, and motes that girdled Canopus in a broad, flat ring like the rings of Saturn, and of the breadth of Saturn's orbit. Now! Aldebaran in Taurus, a monstrous red star of a pair of stars whose 16 planets wove high-velocity ellipses around their gyrating parents. He was hurling himself through space-time with growing assurance. Now! Antares, an M1 red giant, paired like Aldebaran, 250 light-years from Earth, encircled by 250 planetoids of the size of Mercury, the climate of Eden. And lastly, now! He was drawn to the womb of his birth. He returned to the Nomad, now welded into the mass of the Sargasso asteroid, home of the lost scientific people, who scavenged the spaceways between Mars and Jupiter. Home of Joseph, who had tattooed Foyle's tiger face and mated him to the girl, Moira. He was back aboard the Nomad. Gully Foyle is my name, and Terra is my nation. Deep space is my dwelling place. The stars my destination. The girl, Moira, found him in his tool locker aboard Nomad, curled in a tight fetal ball, his face hollow, his eyes burning with divine revelation. Although the asteroid had long since been repaired and made airtight, Foyle still went through the motions of the perilous existence that had given birth to him years before. But now he slept and meditated, digesting and encompassing the magnificence he had learned. He awoke from reverie to trance, and drifted out of the locker, passing Moira with blind eyes, brushing past the awed girl who stepped aside and sank to her knees. He wandered through the empty passages and returned to the womb of the locker. He curled up again and was lost. She touched him once. He made no move. She spoke the name that had been emblazoned on his face. He made no answer. She turned and fled to the interior of the asteroid, to the Holy of Holies in which Joseph reigned. "My husband has returned to us," Moira said. "Your husband?" "The God-man who almost destroyed us." Joseph's face darkened with anger. "Where is he? Show me." "You will not hurt him?" "All debts must be paid. Show me." Joseph followed her to the locker aboard Nomad and gazed intently at Foyle. The anger in his face was replaced by wonder. He touched Foyle and spoke to him. There was still no response. "You cannot punish him," Moira said. "He is dying." "No," Joseph answered quietly. "He is dreaming. I, a priest, know these dreams. Presently he will awaken and read to us, his people, his thoughts. And then you will punish him." "He has found it already in himself," Joseph said. He settled down outside the locker. The girl, Moira, ran up the twisted corridors and returned a few moments later with a silver basin of warm water and a silver tray of food. She bathed Foyle gently, and then set the tray before him as an offering. Then she settled down alongside Joseph, alongside the world, and prepared to await the awakening. And there we have it, the end of this most remarkable of books. Gullyfoyle has completed the circle from crawling insect to wealthy socialite, to dynamo warrior to burning man, to star traveler, and finally to prophet of a new era. Exactly what happens next is the realm of our imagination. If you have reached this point, I want to thank you for listening along. This is one of my favorite novels, and is also my first foray into audio narration. I hope to narrate more novels in the future, both fantasy and science fiction. Thank you, and good night.